Okay, guys, what we have here is a stripped down thickness planer, and we're going to give it some super maintenance. Yeah, this is stripped down further than I ordinarily would do just for maintenance. I went one step farther than I normally would and took off the hood so that you could see all the parts as I'm working on it. The first thing, of course, that you want to do before you do any maintenance whatsoever is unplug this sucker. You really don't want 12-inch knives biting into you while you're trying to work on something. You need to remove the infeed cover, this part of the planer, and the table or the height adjustment handle. The infeed cover comes off with just a Phillips screwdriver, and then you want to pull off the pulley guard on this side and the infeed motor on that side. The infeed, they really don't tell you to pull off the infeed motor, but as you can see, this stuff just collects all sorts of sawdust, and that really needs to be cleaned out from time to time. And okay, while you've got this here, the first thing you want to do is you want to look around and you want to check. You want to see whether or not everything is working correctly, and so I'm going to start with the knives. Now, the knives will build up some resin right at the edge, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm looking around for the magnifiers. Here we go. But I want to inspect the knives. Remember when we were talking about sharpening a chisel, I told you that you look for shiny spots. That shows you where nicks and cuts are. I'm going to look for the same thing here, but I'm also looking for a little bit of resin across the entire knife. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Now, I'll turn that so you can see it better than I can. The resin builds up along the edge right here. And that indicates to me, that little bit of resin indicates to me that the knife is cutting all the way across. If I had resin starting here and then ending at some place, that would mean that this part of the knife is too low to cut, and I only have two knives cutting at this point. But as I look at this, all the knives are cutting all the way across. So that shows me that I've got the knives at the proper angle, okay, or the proper height. They're all three cutting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Drew is telling me to be careful touching them, and actually, I'm running my finger across the back of the bevel. I'm not at the point, and he's right. You do not want to run your finger across the cutting point. That would quickly turn this into a much more colorful show than it needs to be. But at any rate, if you do find that one of the knives is not cutting properly, then you have to go back to the manual and figure out how to adjust the knife height and adjust just that knife. Another thing that you might want to do is if the planer is leaving streaks in the woods, and you find a set of nicks. Now we don't have that here. Where you'd have three white spots right in a row as you're turning this. That will create a little raised spot on the wood. And what you can do to get rid of that is take one knife, loosen the gibs that hold it in, and shift that knife over a 32nd of an inch. You don't need to shift it very much at all. Okay. So Anyway, you shift that over, and that will get rid of those nicks. Make sure that the chain tension, the chain is underneath here. I'm not going to be able to show you the chain because that would require a man, probably an Olympic weightlifter. But you can. I may be able to tip it up so that you can see the chain. It's right here, okay, and you should be able to wiggle that back and forth in the middle, maybe no more than a half an inch. That is the yeah. If you got it good on camera 3, try that. There we go. Yeah, there's the chain. Okay, you see that's the proper chain tension right there. Okay, that's good tension. Not too tight. You want to have some wiggle, but not so much that it's just flopping around. Okay, let's put that back down. Yeah, you want to make sure that and I'll turn this around so you can see it, that the tension on the pulley belts is correct. Again, about a half an inch. I'm being able to squeeze that in there about a half an inch, and check that the pulleys are tight. You know, I'm putting my hand on the cutter head, not on the knives, on the cutter head, and seeing if I can turn the pulleys in any way independently of the belt. You would be surprised how many times I've been using this planer for 20 years since it was developed, and every now and then that because there's so much vibration in these machines, those set screws that hold the pulleys on back out a little bit, and you can always tell when that happens. You throw the planer on, and there's this big clunk as the pulley catches up. You want to make sure that these things aren't loosening up, because that can play havoc with the end of your shaft. You may even have to replace your shaft if you don't catch it. But make sure that those pulleys are tight. Make sure to check that the screws. There are screws on the top of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Underneath these screws. Here, let's see if I can turn this so that you can see it a little bit better. I'm talking about the screw right here and right here, and then their mates on the back here and here. These screws control the pressure on the feed, the infeed and the outfeed rollers. You want to make sure that these screws, they're set at the factory so that they're about even with the lower part of the casting when they go in. That should give you the correct pressure. If you're having a lot of problems with chattering, the wood is chattering as it's fed through, you may need, yeah, there we go. Which one are you on?
You're right.
This one right here. Okay. You may need to take a screwdriver and simply adjust it. As you turn in the screw, the feed pressure will get more. As you turn out the screw, the feed pressure will get less. Okay, so you may have to adjust it. You could also have to adjust it if the wood is drifting from side to side. The wood will drift towards the tighter roller. Okay, so if it's drifting to the right, you want to loosen the right screws or tighten the left, one or the other. If it's chattering, you may need to tighten them all. If it's chattering and drifting, then you've got a broken spring. You want to back this out completely. Take the spring out. Call us up, and we'll send you a replacement part. Not for free, of course, but we'll send you one. So those are the things that you check. Now we can get to the cleaning. The cleaning you simply do with a brush. Just brush everywhere that you can reach. First of all, with a soft bench brush. You can, if you want, blow this out. I don't like to blow these things out in the academy because the sawdust just goes everywhere, mostly places where I don't want it. but I'm going to get as much dust as I can out of this. There are a lot of little nooks and crannies in this machine, and you may have to, at some point, get a can of compressed air or get your blowout to get some of this stuff. Look at the, I'll turn this over so you can see there is a bunch of sawdust that hides in here. Whoa, lots and lots of it. All right, now we've taken an additional dust bath here. Now let's get serious, because we'll probably have some impacted sawdust in places. It impacts in the teeth of your rollers, your roller gears. So I'm taking a very stiff wire brush and I'm cleaning out that impacted sawdust there as I roll this, and then I'll go back here and I'll clean out this one. I also am going to need to clean out the impacted sawdust. Let me move this so you can see. There you go. This is the Infeed Roller, and you can see little pieces of sawdust that have just gotten absolutely, really embedded in there. And of course, the stiff wire brush takes those right off, as you can see. If you get too much, if you get this impacted too much, what will happen is that the Infeed Roller will start slipping. Let's see that. That should not be. There's a Allen screw right there that will need to tighten. These rollers should be tight on this hexagonal bar. They should not slide back and forth. That's another thing that comes loose with vibration. So check that these rollers, there should be no gaps between them, and they should be tight. So while we're here, I'll tighten that up real quickly. I have to tell you that I don't have what number of Allen screw I need memorized, but I just happened to pick the right one. Okay, that is tight. Now, while we're cleaning out the sawdust, let's see if I can get it to where you can see a screw. One of the height adjusting screws here. Okay. The thing is these also get impacted sawdust, and you can put the height adjustment handle here and turn it. Okay, which one? You want right over here? Yeah, okay. See, you should actually be able, there we go, put it right here. I'm holding the wires of this stiff brush against the threads while I go up or down. Yeah, well, we'll take care of that squeak. We'll take care of that in a minute. I'm going up or down here and cleaning out the threads as I go. Okay. Incidentally, these stiff wire brushes, you almost need them, or you should really attach one to your planer and keep it with it at all times. If you're trying to adjust the height and all of a sudden it stops, it snags, it's probably because you've got a piece of sawdust that's impacted in these screws somewhere. And what you need to do is turn it the opposite direction, and we're holding this against wherever you've got that impaction. And scrape out the impaction before you go. If you force the planer, if you force it through that hard spot, you could actually skip a tooth on the. You could cause the chain to jump on one or more of the screws where the gears are beneath here, and that will put your table out of alignment. Which is. Let's see. Okay. Now, we want to take off, the next thing we want to do in our cleaning frenzy here is to take off the resin on the knives that we found. Oven cleaner will do this. Acetone will do this. Alcohol will do it, but not as fast as acetone or oven cleaner. You simply get some. I'm going to wet this a little bit and take that, and I'm going to wipe the back bevel here with acetone. And I'm keeping this back bevel down so that, if I have this turned up and I'm putting this pressure on here, I could cut myself. Okay, and I would go on from knife to knife and continue to do that. Now, once we've got these knives good and clean, the next thing to do is to touch them up with a stone. I'm going to step out here for a little bit. I have, you saw me in the sharpening section, use these water stones. I've got some water stones that are chipped, so they're not quite as big. You find the flat of the bevel, and you can feel it there, and then you just run the water stone across that, holding it against the bevel. Just work that back and forth until you've got a nice shine there. All we're doing is we're touching up the knives. We're not doing any sharpening that's going to require us to reset the knives. We're just sort of touching up the edges. So make sure that, and then you can do the back. Do the bevel and the back. Once again, you can feel that back there. It's easier to feel it and draw it towards you, or feel it and push it away from you. Just do it in one direction rather than the back and forth. And then once you've got that done, then we'll go back here and we're going to wipe this and get the water out. Once again, keep your fingers out of the way of that bevel where you can. Wipe with the bevel facing down. All right, knives are touched up. Lubrication. Okay, you want to use for lubrication either some spray silicone or spray graphite when you're above the table, for the simple reason that oil will mix with sawdust and create acampunky. And acampunky then gums up the works. So we're going to spray a little silicone in at each of the threads. This stuff doesn't last very long. I've got to tell you, you really need to do this pretty often to keep this thing from squeaking. But once we get that silicone in there, see, still a little bit of a squeak. Now, it also needs silicone right here on the top of the tie bars, where the screws come through those bushings. You can kind of see those bronze-like bushings out there. That will also help take care of the squeak. You're not going to get rid of all of it, but you're going to get rid of most of it, and it'll feel better to you too. This is already feeling much better. What? Anyway, okay. I'll take those in just a minute. The next thing is you want to take some 10-weight oil. Okay. Saturate a rag with that 10-weight oil. Okay. And we're going to just sort of hold that on the chain underneath while we take the handle here. Fortunately you can't see, but what the chain is going through that oil-soaked rag right now. And I'm lubricating the chain as I'm raising the table. Okay. Now that we've got the table working nice, we're going to go back and we're going to check one more thing. I've got a block of wood here that is exactly 1.5 inches by 2 inches. This is one of the 1, 2, 3 blocks that Jim McCann made for us that we've keep finding all sorts of nice things we can do with it. I'm going to adjust this planer to where I can feel that block hit the tie bar. Okay, right there. And that at that point that's just scraping the top there. Okay? I come over here, and it's a little tighter, but it's still not bad. Over here on this side, it's not hitting at all, and not hitting at all on here. So what I have got is I have got two sprockets that are out of adjustment. And that's believe me, that's the subject for a whole nother Sawdust session is changing that chain. But at this point, I would stop, pull the planer off the stand, and attack the chain. The procedure is in your manual, but Drew warned me that this might be so. He said he thought he felt the chain jump on a couple sprockets a couple days back, and so the very last thing that you need to do is to wax the table. There is some while I'm talking about wax, let me debunk one of my favorite myths that you can build up layer upon layer upon layer of wax. You cannot build up a coat of wax. Wax is a very strange substance that sticks tenaciously to everything but itself. The wax that you put on over a coat of wax dissolves that coat of wax and creates a new layer a couple of molecules thick. If you do that again and again and again, you end up with a single coat of wax a couple molecules thick. It'll never get any thicker. So the one coat of wax, carefully done, should be enough. The one exception to this rule is cast iron. This is a cast iron table, and while it's new, cast iron is porous, and you can actually work in a little bit of wax if you work it very hard. And so you may, for that reason, want to do a couple vigorous coats when your planer is new, but afterwards one coat of wax should be all that is required. Incidentally, I know that this isn't, that some machinists will disagree with me on this, but I normally apply my wax with black Scotch-Brite. I figure that helps polish the table. I'm not removing that much metal, and it creates a little friction and a little heat, so that if the wax is going to soak into the porous cast iron, it'll do so. So there we go. I'm buffing out the wax, and at this point, I'd put her back together, and she's ready to use.